Hey guys, it's Karen here, and welcome back to another Airsoft video. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about how you can fix a pretty common issue with these Airsoft Glock 17s. Right here, this is the VFC Glock 17 Gen 4. And a pretty common issue with these after a while is going to be related to the slide lock here, or the slide stop, whatever you want to call it. This little piece right here will just kind of stop working. And so I'll show you right here when I release the slide. Didn't do it that time. There we go. It actually came off. It jumped over the slide lock, and now the slide can freely fall off. And so because I haven't seen a lot of good solutions, I thought I would be the one to make that video for you guys. So you can see this is a pretty heavily upgraded Glock 17 internally, but that's not going to affect the solution I'm going to show you guys for this video. I'm going to show you two solutions for this. So this issue can occur for a number of reasons. A lot of the time it's just related to the age. Some of these, there's a lot of springs in these airsoft guns, and they will wear out over time and kind of lose their springiness. And so that can be a leading cause of why this happens. Another reason is installing a stronger spring. So as you can see, it's a steel recoil guide. And so it has a lot more kick to it, and it has a lot more power behind it. So that extra power kind of just lets the slide jump over the lock, just like that. This is what stops the slide from, flying off the end of the gun in normal operation. And so the first thing I would check is if this edge is rounded off at all. So this right here is actually a new replacement slide lock or slide stop. And you can buy these online at redwolfairsoft.com and other places for pretty cheap. So you want to make sure that this edge is actually square and not rounded off from use. So the second thing to check on this is actually going to be how springy this is. So if you can see underneath this piece, there's actually this piece of metal coming out of the screw. This is a spring. This is what gives that piece of springiness. So if you go on this side, just gently kind of push this all the way down. You can now push this piece out just using a pair of tweezers or whatever. This will just come right out like that. I hope that was clear. I hope that was straightforward. So this right here is going to be our problem, the reason why our slide is not stopping. So you can kind of peek through this hole and see that you can actually see the spring right in the middle there, and that is not good. That means that this does not have a lot of spring tension behind it. So the easiest way to give this more spring potential is actually just going to be to grab it like this with a pair of tweezers and just push up like that. And don't do it too much. Don't do it excessively. I would say probably up to about here, and that alone will fix it for a lot of people. Fix this issue for a lot of people. You can see now that it's past that window. This is the easiest solution. Just grab a pair of tweezers, push it up like that. But now if you do want to check the condition of the spring in general, and maybe also do a quick cleaning, I'm going to show you guys right now how to disassemble this whole lower assembly. Now it is a little annoying to do, so if you're not, if you don't want to do this step, just skip over this part. I'll put the timestamp on screen to where you need to go to. But yeah, so to disassemble this, first just grab a screwdriver. I'm going to grab my rusty Phillips head here and remove this screw holding in the lower assembly. It's going to come right out. And I'm going to do my best to show you guys what I'm doing here, but it's a little difficult. So the next step is going to be to remove these two pins. So we're going to start with the top pin right here. You can pretty much just take any tool. In this case, I'm using an Allen key to just kind of push it out. You might need to gently tap it out with a tool if it's not coming out very easily. There we go. And then next you can just kind of push the rest of it out like that. There's your first roll pin. And then we're going to remove the spring off the trigger bar. Put that to the side. And then next we're going to remove this big guy. And so this will only come out one way. On mine, I reinstalled it pushing into this way, so it's going to come out that way as well. There we go, it's getting started. So again, you can see right there, it's only going to come out one way. So if it's not coming out one direction, try the other direction. And there's your big roll pin right there. Okay, so now a bunch of parts are going to fall out of your gun, so make sure you're ready to catch them. The first piece is going to be this right here, the slide catch, or the slide release. And then now you're going to be able to remove these pieces at the top. So I would first remove this piece right here. It's part of the rail. And then now gently remove this piece, because that spring that we were talking about earlier is going to fall out when you do. And now the spring is free. And as you can see, oh, where'd it go? As you can see, it's very, very basic. It's just a piece of metal bent to give it springiness. And then also, if we remove this assembly back here, the trigger would also be free, and you could just pull the trigger out just like that. Now let's actually take a look at the spring here. So to give it more springiness, all you have to do is just rebend this to give it more spring energy. And this is a decent short-term fix, but if your spring is just worn out, then it's going to rewarp itself over time. So this is not going to be a permanent fix. So there you go, I just gave it more spring energy. Now I'm going to show you guys how to reassemble this really quick. So first I'm just going to show you guys how this goes back together without the spring in there. So it's pretty straightforward. I would first I would line it up with the back right here, so I would kind of push this in first. And then make sure this sits flush, because, so there you go. This right here is not in flush, and this is going to cause issues when you try to reassemble later, because as you can see through the holes, it's not lining up. So to avoid that, my recommendation would be to kind of first push it in from the back. So did you see what I just did? Kind of swing it in from the back, and that ensures that this surface is going to be nice and smooth. So pop that spring in there. And we want it to sit just like that. Again, it's not going to fall through, so don't worry about that, or it shouldn't fall through. It should just stay just like that. Flip your gun upside down. This is going to be hard to show, but like I said earlier, kind of swing that puppy in. You can see it's lined up on the back. Oh, we can't see that. It's lined up on the back. Kind of swing her in gently, and she's in there smooth. And that is going to take a little bit of practice to get perfect, but once you figure it out, it's not that hard. You can see the surface is smooth right here, and we can also see, importantly, that the spring is in there properly. So I would start by just popping this piece in right here. And again, you want to periodically check to make sure that everything is lined up, and that's an easy way to check is just by looking through these holes. If you can see all the way through and there's no obstructions, then you're good to go. I would start with the big bar first. So first you can kind of push it in, but don't push it in all the way yet. We'll actually make sure that your trigger is lined up. That's actually an important thing that I forgot to mention, because as you can see, the trigger has to be in a certain position for it to actually line up on the hole. So if it's like this, you can see that hole is blocked, so you can't get this bar through. And again, make sure this jagged side is on the outside. So I'd say push it through to about, about here, where you can see that first notch. Next, we're going to grab our slide release or slide catch, whatever you guys want to call it, and we're just going to kind of tuck it in this gap right in here. And so you're going to know that it's sitting in there properly, because when you push it in, this is going to sit perfectly flush where it should be on the frame. And so this is a little hard to see, and I hope you guys can see this. And then once that's in there, just push the trigger, the big roll bar all the way through. It should just go through nicely. If you gotta tap it in there to lock it in, give it a little tap. So now you can check the trigger. The trigger should be it should just be moving back and forth, rocking back and forth, just like this. And this also should be kind of moving like this, a little freely. So the next thing to reinstall is going to be your small roll pin right here. And the easiest way to do this is to, in my opinion, actually push it in from this left side of the frame. And so one thing to note here, this mag catch that we just put in, there's going to be a small spring right at the top here. As part of the mag catch assembly, which I don't know if that's showing up on camera. I hope it is. There's a tall itsy-bitsy spring right here that we need to push down as we install our piece. So this is bi-directional, it doesn't matter. You can push it in either way. So kind of push it up against there. Grab a small tool to just push that spring down. And it's gonna go right past it, just like that. So don't push it in all the way. I did accidentally push it in all the way. Push it out about, and leave about that much hanging out the other side. And you're gonna see now that this mag release, or the slide release, sorry, slide catch is gonna be nice and springy. Okay, and so now this can be slightly challenging. This, I would say this is actually the hardest part of this reassembly. So first, like you just saw, grab your trigger spring and hook it like this. This is the easiest way that I found to do it. Hook it like that. Next, push this trigger bar all the way towards the lower assembly, and that's actually going to move your trigger as well, so you can see the triggers resetting basically. Push this all the way out, and then with this little hooked end, if you've probably already figured it out, we're going to push this bar through the hooked end. So to do that, just kind of push this forward. There's going to be a small gap, which you can see right here. We're going to push it into that gap. And then now, if we look on this side, you should be able to see the end of the spring, which you can kind of just barely see on camera. And so we're going to take a small tool like this tweezer, and just pull it out like that, kind of hinge it. So now you can see the spring is past where this bar is going to pass. So then we're going to push the bar. So okay, it's going to spring out occasionally like that. Just reset, don't get frustrated. It takes a few tries to get it, but once it's in there, it's in there. So you're going to push this up against the spring, and then kind of as you're pushing it through, release, and voila, it's done. And that takes a little bit of practice to get good at. But once you do it a few times, you're going to be all good. So make sure these two bars are in there nice and even on both sides. And then now you can see the trigger is working like normal. Right there, you can reset it by pushing this down. And then you can also reset all this. And so the trigger is working normally. And so the trigger safety on mine is broken, which it shouldn't be broken on yours, as long as you didn't mess around with the trigger too much itself. So yeah, that's that part. And then finally, we can reinstall this screw that goes right there at the top. And I would give that a pretty good tighten. The easiest way to install this is to kind of get it started, push it in there. Don't push it in all the way. And you can see it's kind of peeking through right there. Now you're going to want to push this spring down, and only do this for a moment because you just added all that springiness. You don't want to remove it all by being, pushing it down for too long. You might have to play with it a little bit, and there we go. Just like that, it's in. And so now this will fix it most of the time. That'll be the fine solution, again, most of the time. Let's see if it fixed it on this gun. I think the answer is going to be probably not. So it didn't fix it on this gun, and that's because this gun is again using that stronger steel spring, and also some of these parts are pretty worn out on the inside. So my second solution is actually going to involve putting in your own spring underneath the spring that comes in the factory. Whoops, almost dropped it. Putting in your own spring, and so this is a size that I found. And just for comparison, I mean, that's the size, that's it in the palm of my hand. So you can see how small the spring is. I just found it lying around, and this is actually perfect for what we're going to do. It's a pretty stiff spring, which is kind of what you want. You want a stiffer spring in there. You don't want something all loosey-goosey. I'm sure you could probably use a ballpoint pen spring or something like that. And so once you have it like this, basically you can grab your spring, and I'm going to try and put it in with the tweezers here and hopefully it doesn't go flying off somewhere. And you want to get it basically underneath the original the metal piece of metal. I'm actually going to open this up just a little bit more, but you really don't want to overbend this because it'll break, it'll snap. So now once it's like that, just going to try and gently push it in, And okay, so you don't want it to go above the spring like that. You want the whole spring to go underneath the piece of metal, which I have just achieved with my finger. And so that is exactly where you want the spring to be sitting, kind of just underneath that piece of metal. Again, I hope this is showing up on camera. I'm trying to really show you guys. So it's sitting just underneath the piece of metal. Next, we can grab our slide lock. And again, it doesn't really matter the orientation. I'm going to put it in this way around. I'm going to push our metal spring down, or both springs down. Come on. And there you go. Now it's in there. So now, basically what I've done is I've given this, the original spring, extra springiness from underneath. And so this now has extra spring potential, spring power. It's definitely harder to push down from both sides, which is a good thing because it means that this will not be able to jump over this slide lock now. See if it'll show up on camera. Yes, you can see our new spring underneath the slide lock. Next, basically just pop the slide back on. And now, voila. No more weird issues with the slide. There's enough spring power basically underneath that slide lock that the slide is not going to go flying off mid-game or anything like that. And so that is going to be my, I guess, technically 3 solutions to fix this issue. Yeah, I believe that's the best solution to fix Glock 17, Airsoft, Glock 17, Gen 4 slide issues, particularly with the VFC. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this.